I'm about to show you something that may genuinely shock you. It's something your doctor checks at every single visit, looks at for a few seconds, and then moves on. And in those few seconds, they're missing warning signs that can cost you your independence, put you into long-term care, or take away your ability to recognize the people you love most. I'm Dr. Maria Lee, and after more than 20 years as a cardiologist, I've seen mentally sharp, active seniors lose everything that mattered to them, not because they were seriously ill, but because no one ever taught them how to understand what their own blood pressure was trying to tell them. Your doctor wraps the cuff around your arm. The machine beeps. One number over another. Looks fine, they say, and they move on. But hidden inside those two numbers are 6 critical warning signs about what's happening inside your body right now. Warnings about whether you'll stay independent or need help getting dressed. Warnings about whether you'll remain mentally sharp or slowly slip into confusion. Warnings about whether your organs are being protected or quietly damaged every day. This isn't a rare test. It isn't expensive imaging. It's your blood pressure. 2 numbers you can measure at home for free. Yet almost no one is taught how to read it properly. Most doctors aren't looking at the space between those numbers, the gap that tells you whether your arteries are stiff and failing. They're not checking both arms, even though a difference can signal serious vascular disease. They're not noticing patterns that suggest kidney damage long before lab tests change. All the information is there, and almost everyone is missing it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what those 6 warnings are and how to find them in your own readings. Warning number 1 has nothing to do with whether your blood pressure is high or low. Warning number 3 will make you angry when you realize how preventable so much organ damage really is. And warning number 6, the one that could save your life today, requires one simple check you can do the moment this video ends. This is not about fear. It's not about taking more medications. It's about recognizing that your body is sending urgent signals, and if you don't learn to read them, you risk losing the life you love. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn could keep you in your own home, keep your mind clear, and keep you with your family for years longer. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert was 72 years old, a retired mechanical engineer. Sharp mind, loved solving problems, spent hours in his garage working on projects. For nearly 2 years, his blood pressure readings hovered around 160/65. His doctor focused entirely on the top number. That systolic pressure is too high, he kept saying. One medication, then another, then another. But no one looked at what really mattered. No one calculated the gap between those two numbers. 160-65. That's a pulse pressure of 95. And that number was screaming danger. When you're younger, your arteries are flexible, like healthy rubber tubing. They expand with each heartbeat and recoil smoothly, keeping pressure stable. That keeps the gap between the top and bottom numbers relatively small. But Robert's arteries had lost that flexibility. They had become stiff and rigid. So when his heart pumped, pressure spiked sharply. That pushed the top number high. Between beats, there was no elastic recoil, so pressure dropped quickly. That pulled the bottom number low. That wide gap was telling us his arteries were failing, and every heartbeat was sending damaging pressure waves straight into his brain. Robert felt fine. No warning symptoms. He kept living his life. Until one afternoon, in his garage, he suddenly couldn't speak. His words slurred. His right side collapsed. It was a massive stroke. Robert survived, but the damage was permanent. He lost use of his dominant arm. His speech never fully recovered. His sharp mind is still there, but trapped inside a body that no longer cooperates. His wife once told me something I'll never forget. She said, "He just sits in the garage now and looks at his tools. He can't use them anymore." That stroke was preventable. The warning had been sitting in his blood pressure readings for 2 full years. A pulse pressure that high signals extreme risk. It means the brain, kidneys, eyes, and heart are all being damaged silently. If someone had recognized it, his treatment would have been very different, not just lowering the top number, but addressing arterial stiffness directly. Now I want you to know how to recognize this warning yourself. Pulse pressure is simple. Take your top number and subtract your bottom number. Over 60 is concerning. Over 70 is dangerous. Over 80 signals serious risk. Over 90 requires immediate attention. This isn't theoretical. Large studies following adults over 65 show that wider pulse pressure dramatically increases stroke risk. And yet this calculation takes seconds and is often ignored. Now let me show you warning number 2, because this one challenges what most people believe about blood pressure entirely. When your bottom number drops too low, your heart can be quietly starving, and you may feel absolutely nothing at all. And this is where things become even more dangerous. A bottom number that's too low can be just as dangerous as one that's too high. In some cases, it's even more dangerous because almost no one is watching for it. Let me tell you about Helen. Helen was 76 years old, a retired school teacher. She loved reading to her grandchildren. She loved her garden. She loved her quiet, independent life. She had been on blood pressure medication for nearly 15 years. Over time, as her top number slowly crept up, her doctor kept increasing the doses. By the time she came to see me, she was taking 3 different blood pressure medications. At her last visit, her blood pressure read 145/55. Her doctor was pleased. "That bottom number looks great," he told her. "But when I saw that 55, I saw danger." Here's what most people are never told. Your bottom number, your diastolic pressure, represents the pressure inside your arteries when your heart is resting between beats. And that resting phase is when blood flows into your coronary arteries. Those coronary arteries are the small vessels that wrap around your heart muscle and supply it with oxygen. Your heart muscle needs oxygen constantly. And here's the critical point. The coronary arteries fill primarily during diastole. If your diastolic pressure is too low, blood flow into those arteries drops. It's simple physics. Lower pressure means lower flow. When the heart muscle doesn't get enough oxygen, it doesn't always scream in pain. Often, it suffers silently. No chest pain, no warning signs. Just slow, progressive damage. We call this silent ischemia. Helen had been living with a diastolic pressure of 55 for nearly 3 years. 3 years of reduced oxygen delivery to her heart. 3 years of damage accumulating quietly. She felt fine. No chest pain. No shortness of breath. Until one morning, while making breakfast, she suddenly felt crushing pressure in her chest. She couldn't breathe. She started sweating and panicking. She managed to call 911. By the time she reached the hospital, she was having a massive heart attack. When we performed an emergency catheterization and looked at her coronary arteries, the findings were shocking. Her arteries weren't even severely blocked. One vessel had about 50% narrowing. In a younger person, or in someone with a normal diastolic pressure, that wouldn't usually cause a heart attack. But Helen's chronically low diastolic pressure had created a dangerous situation. Even moderate blockages became catastrophic. For years, her heart had been operating on the edge, barely getting enough blood flow. And that morning, it finally crossed the line into complete oxygen deprivation. Helen survived, but her heart is permanently damaged now. She gets tired easily. She can't garden the way she used to. Simple activities that once brought her joy now exhaust her. And all of it could have been prevented if someone had recognized, years earlier, that a diastolic pressure of 55 was not great. It was dangerous. The research is clear. A major analysis published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology followed more than 11,000 people with coronary artery disease. Those with diastolic pressure below 60 had nearly a 50% higher risk of heart attack. Below 50, the risk more than doubled. Your heart needs adequate pressure during its resting phase to supply itself with blood. Without it, it slowly starves. Here's what makes this especially cruel. When doctors prescribe blood pressure medications, especially multiple medications together, they lower both numbers. They see a systolic of 145 and add another pill. The top number improves. Everyone feels successful. But at the same time, the diastolic drops from 65 to 55 or lower. A new danger has been created while fixing the old one. And because everyone is focused on the top number, no one notices that the bottom number has crossed into dangerous territory. If you're taking multiple blood pressure medications and your diastolic pressure is consistently below 60, you need to have a serious conversation with your doctor. Your doses may need adjustment. Protecting your heart from high pressure while starving it with low pressure is not good medicine. It's trading one problem for another. Now let me show you warning number 3. And I need you to listen very carefully to this one because it reveals something that should make you angry. Warning number 3. When your blood pressure suddenly becomes impossible to control, your kidneys may be in trouble and time is running out. Let me tell you about Thomas. Thomas was 69 years old. For 15 years, his blood pressure had been perfectly controlled on a single medication, around 125/78. He took his pill every morning, never missed a dose, and followed his routine carefully. Then, over just a few months, everything changed. His blood pressure began to rise. 140/85. Then 155/92. Then 165/98. His doctor increased the dose. No improvement. Added a second medication. Brief improvement, then it climbed again. A third medication. Still rising. 175/102. 180/106. His doctor called it resistant hypertension and kept adding medications. But no one was asking the most important question. Why? For 15 years, everything had been stable. Same medication, same dose, same lifestyle. Then suddenly, nothing worked. This wasn't just resistant hypertension. This was a symptom. This was Thomas's body screaming that something was seriously wrong. And in his case, his kidneys were screaming. Your kidneys have their own blood supply, renal arteries, one feeding each kidney. These renal arteries can narrow over time, just like arteries anywhere else in the body. Plaque builds up. Blood flow is restricted. And when that happens, the kidneys don't get the blood they need. Here's where things become dangerous. Your kidneys are extremely intelligent organs. When blood flow drops, they don't assume the problem is local. They assume your entire body is in danger. They interpret reduced flow as a life-threatening drop in blood pressure. So they activate an emergency response. They release powerful hormones, renin and angiotensin, that constrict blood vessels throughout your body. They tell your kidneys to retain salt and water. The goal is simple: raise blood pressure to force more blood into the kidneys. But when the real problem is narrowed kidney arteries, raising overall blood pressure doesn't solve anything. The narrowing is still there. So the kidneys keep sounding the alarm. More hormones, more vessel constriction, more fluid retention, higher and higher blood pressure. It becomes a vicious cycle. High blood pressure damages the kidneys further. More damage leads to more hormone release. Pressure climbs even higher. And all the while, you're taking medication after medication that never addresses the root cause. That's exactly what happened to Thomas. His kidneys were screaming for help through his blood pressure readings. But everyone was focused only on forcing the numbers down. 6 months passed before someone finally ordered an ultrasound of his kidney arteries. By then, the damage was done. His right kidney had shrunk. It was scarred, barely functioning. His left kidney was compensating, working overtime, under constant strain. If this had been recognized earlier, if someone had understood that suddenly uncontrollable blood pressure is a red flag, not just resistant hypertension, those arteries could have been opened with a procedure. Kidney function could have been preserved. Now, Thomas is facing progressive kidney failure. Dialysis is likely in his future, 3 times a week, for hours at a time, connected to a machine that does the work his kidneys used to do. His independence will be gone. His freedom will be gone. All because no one listened to what his blood pressure was trying to say. Studies show that 10 to 20% of so-called resistant hypertension is caused by renal artery stenosis. But it's frequently missed because doctors don't look for it. They just keep adding medications. If your blood pressure was well controlled for years and suddenly becomes impossible to control, you must demand investigation. An ultrasound of the kidney arteries is non-invasive, painless, and can reveal a completely fixable problem if it's caught early. And kidney artery narrowing isn't the only cause. Hormone-secreting adrenal tumors can do this. Severe sleep apnea can do this. Stopping breathing dozens of times an hour creates massive pressure surges that reset your entire cardiovascular system. The message is simple and critical. Sudden, uncontrollable blood pressure is not just a medication problem. It's a symptom. And something serious needs to be found and fixed. Now, before I show you warning number 4, which will reveal how your blood pressure at night can expose hidden diabetes that threatens your vision, your kidneys, and even your legs, I need to ask you something. If this information is helping you understand your blood pressure in a way no one has ever explained before, please share this video. Think about your family, your friends, anyone struggling with blood pressure control. This knowledge can change lives. And subscribe to this channel. My goal is simple: to help you stay independent, stay mentally sharp, and stay with the people you love for as long as possible. Now, let's move on to warning number 4. And this one connects blood pressure to something most people never expect. Warning number 4. What your blood pressure does at night can reveal hidden diabetes that is silently damaging your body right now. Here's something most people are never told. Your blood pressure should drop by about 10 to 20% while you sleep. This is called nocturnal dipping. It's your body's built-in recovery period. Your heart and blood vessels work all day. At night, they're supposed to rest. But some people don't dip. Their blood pressure stays high at night. Or worse, it rises. This pattern is one of the strongest predictors we have for stroke, kidney disease, and diabetes-related complications. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret was 71 years old, a retired accountant, very disciplined about her health. She measured her blood pressure twice a day, morning and evening, and kept meticulous logs. Her readings looked fine. Morning, 128/80. Evening, 132/82. Her doctor was satisfied. But Margaret felt terrible. She was exhausted all the time. She woke up feeling unrefreshed. And she was getting up 4 or 5 times every night to urinate. She mentioned this to her doctor. He attributed it to aging, maybe an overactive bladder. He offered medication. But something about her symptoms didn't sit right with me. The fatigue, the nighttime urination, the fact that she felt worse in the morning than in the evening. I ordered a 24-hour ambulatory blood pressure monitor. This device checks blood pressure every 20 minutes, day and night, including during sleep. The results were alarming. Margaret's daytime blood pressure was normal, exactly as her home readings showed. But at night, her blood pressure rose to 165/98, higher than during the day. This is called reverse dipping, and it's extremely dangerous. So the question was, why? And that answer revealed a problem that had been hiding in plain sight. Her fasting blood sugar was normal. Her hemoglobin A1C, the 3-month average, was slightly elevated, but not in the diabetic range. Standard screening labeled her as at most pre-diabetic. But I went deeper. I placed a continuous glucose monitor on her for 2 weeks. This device checks blood sugar every 5 minutes, day and night. And it revealed the truth. Margaret's blood sugar during the day was normal. But at night, while she slept, it was spiking above 200. She had nocturnal hyperglycemia, hidden diabetes that only appeared at night. Here's what was happening. High blood sugar forces the kidneys to work overtime, filtering excess glucose and pushing it into the urine. That's why Margaret was waking up multiple times a night to urinate. Her kidneys were trying to get rid of the sugar. But high blood sugar also activates stress hormones and the sympathetic nervous system. That keeps blood pressure elevated. So instead of dipping at night, Margaret's blood pressure stayed high because her body was under constant metabolic stress. We treated her nighttime blood sugar. Within 2 weeks, her nighttime blood pressure normalized. She began dipping properly. The frequent urination stopped. Her energy returned. She told me she felt like herself again. Here's the critical point. If we had only checked her blood pressure during the day, we would have missed this completely. If we had relied only on standard diabetes screening, we would have missed it. Her problem was hiding at night. This is why symptoms matter. Frequent nighttime urination, unexplained fatigue, poor sleep despite adequate hours, These are clues that something is wrong after you go to bed. And a 24-hour blood pressure monitor can expose it. Studies show that people who do not dip properly at night have nearly 3 times the risk of stroke. Their brains are being exposed to high pressure around the clock, no rest, no recovery. Eventually, something gives. A vessel ruptures. A clot forms. A stroke occurs. And the warning was there all along, hidden in a blood pressure pattern nobody was checking. Now let me show you warning number 5, because this one is directly tied to whether you keep your mind or slowly lose it. Warning number 5, when your blood pressure swings wildly from day to day, you may be experiencing silent strokes that are damaging your brain right now. Many people think blood pressure should be the same every time. That's not true. Healthy blood pressure fluctuates. It rises with activity, falls with rest, increases with stress, drops when you relax. That's normal. But some people have chaotic swings. 110 over 65 one morning, 180 over 100 a few hours later, 120 over 70 the next day, 175 over 95 the day after. This is not normal variation. This is blood pressure variability, and it is toxic to the brain. Let me tell you about Richard. Richard was 74, a retired architect who loved precision and data. He measured his blood pressure 3 times a day and logged everything carefully. His numbers were chaos. One day, 108 over 62. The next, 192 over 108. His doctor kept adjusting medications, but nothing stabilized him. We discovered the underlying problem: autonomic dysfunction. His autonomic nervous system, the system that should smoothly regulate blood pressure, was failing. When he stood up, his pressure dropped sharply. He felt dizzy. His body panicked, released adrenaline, and his pressure shot too high. Every meal triggered the same cycle. Pressure dropped during digestion, then overcorrected violently. His system had lost its ability to regulate smoothly. Here's why this is catastrophic for the brain. Blood pressure variability is one of the strongest predictors of dementia, stronger than average blood pressure level itself. A long-term study following over 5,000 people found that those with high variability had nearly a 50% higher risk of dementia. Why? Because the constant surging and crashing damages the smallest blood vessels in the brain. They rupture. They leak. They cause silent strokes, tiny areas of dead brain tissue that accumulate over time. You don't feel these happening. There's no pain, no warning. But slowly, your brain is being destroyed. Within a year, Richard developed memory problems. Within 18 months, clear cognitive decline. An MRI showed extensive white matter damage, hundreds of tiny old strokes scattered throughout his brain. Could this have been prevented? If the variability had been recognized earlier, if the goal had been stability, not just lower numbers, possibly. But by the time the pattern was understood, permanent damage had already occurred. Here's how to recognize dangerous variability. Measure your blood pressure at the same times every day for 2 weeks. Look at the range. If your top number varies by more than 20 points day to day, that's concerning. More than 30 points is dangerous. It needs evaluation. Possible causes include autonomic dysfunction from diabetes or nerve damage, incorrect medication dosing, dehydration, sleep apnea, and untreated anxiety. Whatever the cause, it must be found and addressed because your brain is paying the price. Now we come to warning number 6. This is the most critical warning of all, and this one requires action today. Warning number 6. A significant difference between your right and left arm blood pressure means you may have advanced vascular disease that could be fatal. Most people measure only one arm, usually the same arm every time. That's a serious mistake. If there is a difference of more than 10 points between arms, that is not normal variation. That is a medical red flag. Let me tell you about Dorothy. Dorothy was 73. For 10 years, she measured her blood pressure on her left arm every morning. Same routine, same arm. Her readings were good, around 125 over 78. She felt perfectly healthy. At her annual physical, she saw a new doctor who did something no one had done before. She measured both arms. Left arm, 125 over 78. Right arm, 180 over 105. That difference is not acceptable. It is an emergency. Dorothy was sent immediately for vascular imaging. The results were alarming. The artery supplying her right arm, the subclavian artery, was about 90% blocked. That's why the pressure in that arm was so high. But that wasn't the worst part. The same disease was affecting the arteries to her brain. Her left carotid artery was nearly 80% blocked. Dorothy was living with a time bomb in her neck. That plaque could have ruptured at any moment. A clot could have traveled to her brain. She could have lost speech, movement, memory, or her life. She had no symptoms. None. The only warning was the difference between her arms. Medically, a large arm-to-arm difference means severe atherosclerosis. If one artery is that blocked, others almost certainly are brain, heart, kidneys, legs. This is systemic vascular disease. A major study following tens of thousands of people found that an arm difference of 15 points or more was associated with a dramatically higher risk of stroke and cardiovascular death. Dorothy underwent surgery to remove the blockage and restore blood flow to her brain. It was a major operation. Real risks. But it saved her life. And it all started with one simple check that almost no one does. But not doing it would have been the greater risk. She survived. She recovered. She did not have the stroke. And the only reason is that someone checked both arms. Now here's what I need you to do. Right now. Today. As soon as this video ends, check your blood pressure in both arms. If the difference is more than 10 points, call your doctor tomorrow morning. More than 15 points? Call today. More than 20 points? Go to the emergency room. Do not wait. This is not something you keep an eye on. This is something you act on immediately. Now let me put all 6 warnings together, because blood pressure is not just a single reading. It's a complete picture. Warning number 1. A pulse pressure over 70 points means your arteries are stiff and your stroke risk is high. Warning number 2. A diastolic pressure under 60 means your heart may not be getting enough blood. Warning number 3. Suddenly uncontrollable blood pressure means something serious is wrong with your kidneys or hormone system. Warning number 4. No nighttime dipping means hidden metabolic disease is damaging your body. Warning number 5. Extreme day-to-day variability means silent strokes may be destroying your brain. Warning number 6. A significant difference between arms means advanced vascular disease that requires immediate attention. These warnings are already in your blood pressure readings, but only if you know how to look. Calculate the gap. Check both arms. Track patterns. Watch for changes. Your blood pressure is telling you what's happening to your heart, your brain, your kidneys, and your arteries. The question is, are you listening? Here is your action plan. First, use a reliable home blood pressure monitor with an upper arm cuff, not a wrist device. Measure at the same times every day, morning and evening. Second, check both arms at least once a week. Write down both readings and watch for differences. Third, calculate your pulse pressure every time. Top number minus bottom number. If it's over 70, your doctor needs to know. Fourth, pay attention to your diastolic pressure. If it's consistently under 60, your medications may need adjustment.